Sirupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sadivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parjana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakanvidamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastade Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhano Sude Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyahevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nihitananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare Hare. So we are reading from Jaiva Dharma, 8th chapter, Nitya Dharma and Vaishnava behavior. So one devotee had come to Gudum and is asking the Vaishnavas about proper behavior for a Vaishnav. Then Haridas Babaji so is answering and speaking about the devotees' devotional service, the devotees' behavior, referring also to the Kanishta, to the neophyte devotees, to the Madhyam Adhikari, intermediate devotee, and Uttam Adhikari, the devotee on the highest platform of devotional love. So here the last few pages he's speaking about Madhyam Adhikari. So first he spoke about Kanishta Adhikari and now about Madhyam Adhikari. So the devotees are expected to come to the platform of Madhyam Adhikari as quickly as possible. Prabhupada had also mentioned to his disciples that he should come to the platform of Madhyam Adhikari. So as explained before, we cannot immediately come to a higher level of spiritual understanding. So that one day we are Kanishta, and then the next day we are Madhyam, and then the third day we are Uttam Adhikari. Although we would like to quickly advance and become Madhyam Adhikari, pure devotee. But it will take some time. So therefore we have to become acquainted with this transcendental knowledge. Given by the spiritual master, mentioned in the scriptures. So specifically, here Bhaktivinoda Thakur is nicely explaining. So the mic and the speaker. It's better with that,
Yes,
no?
yes, yes, with that.
Sometimes people are saying that the sound is not good. So, so in regards to Madhyamadikari, when such people begin to worship the deity of Bhagavan, it may be understood that they have laid the foundation of all auspiciousness. Of this there is no doubt. They do not have the defect of adhering to false doctrines, and for this reason they have a scent of true Shraddha. Their deity worship is not like that of the Mayavadis, who do not have even a trace of Shraddha for the deity, and who are offenders at the lotus feet of Bhagavan. That is why the words Shraddhaya Ihate, he worships with faith, have been used in the shloka of the 11th canto, 2nd chapter, text number 47. That describes the Kanishta Bhakta. So just to have a recap, so in the Srimad Bhagavatam it is explained. So 3 kinds of devotees, quoting from Bhagavatam. So the devotee who is worshipping the deity, but he does not know how to behave with others, or the devotees, or even with people in general, then is considered to be Kanishta. Shraddhaya ihate, he worships with faith. But then further it is explained that because worshipping the deity requires some qualification. One has to be qualified to worship the deities. As we know also, you have Brahman initiation? Not yet. Okay. So then in the big temples you cannot go on the altar, right? So, but if you chant the holy names and you perform devotional service, then one is accepted as a devotee. And at home, if one has personal deities, he may worship the deities also, even without second initiation, provided he's under good guidance, and then he may be able to do the seva nicely. Even traditionally, you can see in Vaishnav culture, Gaudiya Vaishnav culture, so in small temples, even in India, amongst the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, even if they are not second initiated, they may worship the deities. But then in the bigger temples, established temples, then second initiation is required for those going on the altar, even for those cooking. So therefore you may say that those who are worshipping the deities, they are qualified and they are understood to be good devotees. Then sometimes you hear devotees, they think that devotees who are worshipping the deities are neophyte devotees. And then they may quote this verse from Bhagavatam. It says in Bhagavatam, but they don't have the proper understanding. Hare Krishna. This verse actually says that despite of worshipping the devotees, worshipping the Lord, if the devotee is worshipping the Lord but is not properly behaving with other devotees, or even with the general people, although he has faith, but if his sadachar, his behavior is not proper, then he is considered to be a neophyte devotee. Prakrita bhakta, according to the Bhagavatam. So, despite worshipping the deities. So that means actually in order to worship the deities, one has to be qualified, highly qualified. One should be madhyamadikari. But frankly speaking, we know also that madhyamadikari are rare. But at least one should be humble, tolerant, respectful, and try to become situated on the intermediate platform. One should try to become a madhyamadikari. And then one may be able to worship the deities nicely. And then one may advance in spirit life, and then one may help others also. One may be able to help others in their devotional life. One may be able to then bring innocent people who are not conscious of their constitutional position as servants of God, who are not engaged in devotional service, so we may bring them to the spiritual platform. We may help them to engage in devotional service. The philosophical outlook lodged in the heart of Mayavadis and proponents of other similar doctrines is that Bhagavan has no form and that the deity which is worshipped is simply an imaginary icon. That is also seen practically. In Bharatvarsha, sometimes Mayavad is also worshipping the deities. But it is a kind of stepping stone for them to attain the impersonal Brahman. But that is not proper. And they're actually offenders. They're offending the Lord, saying that the absolute truth has no form. So these are the greatest offenders. And even sometimes they chant the holy names. Because actually not to think of anything is not easy. Just sit still and not think of anything. So therefore, because the mind is very flickering, therefore they worship the deity, and then to be focused, and then ultimately then they want to become one with the absolute truth, or they chant the holy names. And then they want to merge in the absolute truth. That is their misfortune. Although they may be accepted as transcendentalists, as according to the Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, Rishadev, who is an incarnation of the Lord, is speaking to his sons, Bharat Maharaj, and then the Nava-yogendras, who are highly advanced spiritually, and his other 90 sons, explaining two kinds of transcendentalists. The impersonalists and the personalists. So at least the impersonalists, they are not engaged in sense gratification and they want to become free from this material world, but they have a misconception about the absolute truth. Now the first step of spiritual emancipation or spiritual development, Vadanti tattva vidastatvam yajkanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdate. So transcendentalists, they who are inquiring about the absolute truth, or trying to realize the absolute truth. So the non-dual absolute truth, that means non-dual means it is beyond the duality of this material world. So in the material world, dualities are there, heat and cold, happiness and distress. So material dualities are there. So the absolute truth is beyond that. So therefore it is known as non-dual. But then there is transcendental reality, and there's transcendental variety. So the impersonalists, they understand that we have to transcend this material world, the duality of this world. So they're on the first step. The second, so Brahman realization. Second is Paramatma realization. Realizing the Lord in the heart, Vishnu. So there are different kinds of Mayavadis, different kinds of Paramatmavadis who are performing yoga, also Ashtanga yoga. And some of them are actually also Mayavadis, of those who are meditating on Paramatma, and they want to become one with Paramatma, which is like the Mayavadis. But then Bhagavan iti sabdyate, the highest realization is the understanding that the absolute truth is a person, Bhagavan, and the original personality, that is Krishna. Ete samsa kalapamsam Krishnastu Bhagavan sayam indriyar vyakalam lokam hridyante yuge yuge. So, one question.
जैसे मायावादी लोग हैं हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र जप कर रहे हैं, वो तो ब्रह्म ज्योति में लीन होना चाहते हैं, तो क्या ऐसा संभव है कि अगला जन्म उनको मनुष्य का मिलेगा कि वो भक्ति कर सके, क्योंकि वो हरे कृष्ण का महामंत्र जपते हैं?
So he's asking if the Mayavadis, they want to merge in the absolute Brahman, the impersonal aspect of the absolute truth. So they may chant Hare Krishna in order to attain that. So is it possible that because they are chanting Hare Krishna, that in the next lifetime they may become devotees? Yes, it may be. Because ultimately by nature everyone is a servant of Krishna. So, therefore, even the Mayavadis who may be worshipping some deities, so they may, but actually usually only if they associate with the devotees. If they get the good fortune of associating with the devotee, especially an advanced devotee, then they may come to their senses. So even if unknowingly they associate with the pure devotee, then maybe in the next lifetime they may become devotees. But otherwise not, because they are offending the deity, they are offending the holy names. They have the wrong conception, that is the whole point. They don't have the proper conception, understanding. So how many kinds of... These are Krishna's friends, the monkeys, who are jumping here on the roof. So how many devotees are there? Kanishta, and then? And? Kanishta, Madhyam, and? Uttam, yeah, Kanishta, Madhyam, Uttam. Yeah, write it down. So, under such circumstances, how can there be any faith in the deity? As a result, there is a significant difference between deity worship of Mayavadis and that of even the most neophyte Vaishnavas. So at least the neophyte devotee, he has faith in Krishna, that is the Supreme Lord. So they are much superior than the Mayavadis. But then the Kanishta, they also have to make advancement by associating with the Vaishnavas. Question? Tulsi Priya.
What is the difference? What is the difference between Madhyam Kanishta and Madhyam Madhyam and Madhyam Uttam? What are the difference between them?
So what is the difference between Madhyam Kanishta?
Yes.
And Madhyam?
Madhyam Madhyam and Madhyam Uttam.
Yes. So three kinds of levels are there. So as explained, before that a neophyte devotee cannot overnight become a Madhyam. One day, although we want to, today Kanishta, tomorrow Madhyam, day after tomorrow Uttam Vaishnav. So, but it doesn't work like this. At the beginning, one is Kanishta, completely neophyte, then one becomes Madhyam Kanishta, intermediate neophyte, and then Uttam Kanishta, then one becomes little advanced neophyte devotee. And from the advanced neophyte, from Uttam Kanishta but who is Uttam, and then he can become a Kanishta Madhyam. Then he's on the first stage of Madhyamadikari, beginning stage of Madhyamadikari. And then he becomes Madhyam, and then he becomes Uttam Madhyam, first class Madhyamadikari, and then he can become Uttam Vaishnav. Kanishta Uttam, then Madhyam Uttam, and then Uttam Uttam. So that has been indicated by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in this commentary on Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu. So the Madhyam Adhikari is explained here. So he has faith in the Supreme Lord, Ishwar. So the Sanskrit is there also. Ishwar tat adineshu balisheshu dvichatsu cha prema maitri kripopeksha yakaroti sa madhyama, the symptoms of a madhyamadikari. So Ishwara tat adineshu. So he is actually having faith and love for the Lord, for Ishwar, for the Supreme Lord. Tat adhin. And tat adhin so refers to his devotees, those who are dependent on Krishna. Tat here refers to Ishwar. Adhin, those who are depending on the Lord, these are the devotees. So he has faith and love for Krishna and Krishna's devotees. Whereas the Kanishta, as explained before, he may have faith in the worship of the Lord and some love for the Lord, but he has not much respect for the Vaishnavas in general. But the Madhyamadikari, so he has faith in the Lord and his devotees, and he tries to have and he is so serving those who are more advanced. He has a loving relationship with the devotees who are on his level, and he is compassionate to the devotees who are junior, and he's trying to help them. And then he's trying to distribute knowledge or give knowledge to those who are not yet in devotional life. So he's merciful, dayalu. And then he's avoiding those who are inimical, the atheists. So that is a symptom of Madhyamadikari. So he's fixed in devotional service, nishta. He has faith, strong faith, driya vishwas in the Lord. And so humility is there. And he's taking shelter of Krishna, despite all difficulties. So here in regards to Kanishta Madhyam and Uttam Madhyam, so those in the beginning stage, so there it is then just a matter of their faith not being so strong yet. Like for example the Kanishta Madhyam, so if difficulties are there, he may still be disturbed, and he may sometimes be a little bit bewildered, or why this is happening to me, this problem, that problem. But still he will continue. But it's less fixed, whereas the Madhyamadikari, Madhyam, he's completely fixed. And his faith in the Lord is unwavering. Despite all difficulties which may be there, he still has strong faith in the Lord. and then he's trying to advance further and further. So basically it's that, so it is according to one's the level of humility, the more one is advancing from Kanishta to Madhyam to Uttam in regards to intermediate devotees. So his humility, because of he's becoming more pure. Therefore he is becoming more humble. And that is true humility. And then his faith is also becoming stronger. And is able to take shelter of Krishna more. So that is the difference between the Kanishta Madhyam and the Madhyam Madhyam. So the increase of the humility, the faith, and being able to take shelter of the lotus feet of Guru Gauranga and Krishna. So in other words, also the anatas which are there, they are not so much bothering the Madhyam Madhyam Adhikari. So the anatas are less, like Asat Trishna, being attached to that which is not permanent. Or Hriday Dorbalya, weakness of heart, like trying to be engaged but then still, like for example, Vrat is there, Kartik Vrat, and one is trying, that one is not able to succeed because of weakness of heart. So the Madhyam, he may be doing fairly well, but still is not always successful, whereas the Madhyam Madhyam is more successful, perseverant, is more fixed, and so he's able to avoid and also the aparad, or he's less bewildered because he has knowledge also and realization. So there's no inebriety there. Sarup Brahma, in regards to the absolute truth, because he has gained knowledge and he has practiced, applied the knowledge, and he has realizations which are more deep. And then the Uttam Madhyam, the Madhyamadhikari on the highest level, and so also actually, so the Madhyamadhikari basically, he has ruchi, has taste for chanting the holy names. Especially the Madhyam Madhyam. So the Kanishta Madhyam is in the beginning of having a taste, but the Madhyam is fixed in chanting the holy names with taste. Ruchi is there. And then when it comes to the platform of Uttam Madhyam, the high class Madhyamadhikari, then he becomes completely attached to Krishna, asakti, and detached from this world. And then sometimes he may be able to chant Shuddhanam, the pure name, and then he may be able to be absorbed in chanting the holy names, and then Krishna may manifest sometimes, even momentarily. And then he will feel so much transcendental bliss. And that is more and more continuous. Just like in yoga practice also. Yam niyam, asan pranayam pratyahar dharana dhyan. So one is following rules and regulations, one is controlled, the mind and senses are controlled, and then absolute truth in the heart, in the consciousness. Sometimes that is dharana, according to Ashtanga Yoga also. And then comes dhyan, one becomes more absorbed. So the devotee on Uttam Madhyam platform is more absorbed in chanting the holy names and in remembering the Lord's beautiful form, qualities and pastimes. So and then the highest stage then is Shuddhanam, that is when the pure name is chanted. And then Krishna is appearing in the heart, in the consciousness, on the tongue of the devotee. Hare Krishna. So these are the difference between the Kanishta, Madhyam, Madhyam, Madhyam and Uttam Madhyam. Hare Krishna. Okay, so Kanishtadikari, Vaishnavas worship the deity with faith, knowing that Bhagavan possesses personal form and attributes. Mayavadis, however, believe that Bhagavan has no form or attributes and that the deity is therefore imaginary and temporary. Neophytes are not guilty of the offense of Mayavad, and that is why they are accepted as Prakrita Vaishnavas, materialistic devotees, even though they do not possess any of the Vaishnava characteristics. This is where the Vaishnavism is found. On the strength of this one quality, and by the mercy of sadhus, they will certainly gradually be elevated. So because the Kanishtadikari has faith in the Lord, although it is Komal Shraddha, it is soft faith, it is not strong. But because of their faith, because of their endeavor, but then also specifically as mentioned here, by the mercy of the sadhus, they will certainly gradually be elevated. Madhyamadika Vaishnavas must be genuinely merciful towards such people. And if they are, the neophyte bhaktas' worship of the deity and his chanting of Harinam will quickly rise from the Abhas stage to the purely transcendental stage. So the Madhyam Vaishnav's fourth characteristic is neglect towards those who are inimical. Here we must define enmity and describe its different types. Dvesh, enmity, is a particular attitude which is also known as matsarata, envy, and which is exactly the opposite of love. Ishwar is the only object of love, and dvesh is the attitude that is directly opposite to love for him. There are 5 different types of dvesh. First, absence of faith in Ishwar, in God. Second, the belief that Ishwar is nothing more than a natural potency that brings about the results of action. Third, the belief that Ishwar has no particular form. Fourth, the belief that the jivas are not eternally subordinate to Ishwar. Fifth, the absence of mercy. So the devotee who is a Madhyamadikari, he has love for the Lord and he has love for the devotees, and then he has love for any jiva. So then the mercy aspect is there, compassion is there. So Namruchi he has taste for chanting the holy names, for serving Bhagavan Krishna. And then Jivadoya. So he feels compassion for the conditioned souls who are rotting in this material world. But then he's discriminating between those who are innocent and those who are envious of the Lord. So he will neglect those who are envious of the Lord, and he will try to help those who are innocent. Individuals whose hearts are contaminated by these inimical attitudes are absolutely bereft of Shuddha Bhakti. They do not even have Prakrita Bhakti, the rudimentary devotion that is the doorway to Shuddha Bhakti, and which is represented by the neophyte bhaktas' worship of the deity. The 5 types of enmity are found to coexist with attachment to material sense enjoyment. So, if one is attached to this material world and sense enjoyment, then he will be inimical towards the Lord. Ichcha dvesha samudhena. So that is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita in the 7th chapter. Krishna is explaining to Arjuna. So the conditioned soul is bewildered, moha, dvandva mohena, by this duality of this material world. And so specifically here, Ichcha, so that is trying to enjoy in this material world. And then Dvesha, hatred towards the Supreme Lord or the Lord's devotees. So basically they go hand in hand. But sometimes some person might be more inclined towards sense gratification, and he may not have so much hatred towards the Lord. Whereas others, they will have more hatred for the Lord. But then they will also be attached to sense gratification. So therefore those who are not having much hatred, so who are in this sense innocent, so they may be able to take up the path of bhakti. Whereas those who have so much hatred and attached to sense gratification, they will be deprived of being able to adopt the process of devotional service. They will not at all be inclined. So therefore the Madhyamadikari, who will try to help the innocent and he will try to neglect the envious. Yes.
जैसे शुद्ध नाम में जो मतलब किस अवस्था पे आएगा, मध्यम मध्यम पे या मध्यम में उत्तम में?
Shuddha Naam. So he's asking the pure name, when will it come? It will come to the intermediate devotee who is Madhyam Madhyam or the Uttam Madhyam. So the Uttam Vaishnava, the pure devotee, will chant Shuddha Naam. Shuddha Bhakta will chant Shuddha Naam. And so the Madhyamadikari, he will not be able to chant Shuddha Naam yet. It is Abhas Naam, the reflection of the pure name. They are without offenses, and they are chanting nicely and hearing nicely. They have some taste, even Ruchi is there, but Shuddha Naam is not there, because their consciousness is not yet pure. So Madhyam is chanting Abhas Naam. The Uttam Madhyam, the Madhyamadikari, who is highly advanced, sometimes he may chant Shuddha Naam once in a while. So he's practicing and chanting some remembrance. And then suddenly, by the mercy of the Lord, he's endeavoring, by the mercy of the Lord, Shuddha Naam will appear on his tongue, in his heart. And then he will chant with tears in the eyes. So, but that will only come sometimes and for a little while. And then again they're chanting Abhas Naam. Just for a little while they feel some transformation and some wonderful experience. And then again they will chant Abhas Naam. And then they're praying and waiting, when will the moment come again when I can chant Shuddha Naam? And then again it will come, and then again for some time it is just going on, but the bliss of Shuddha Naam is not there. Krishna's presence is not fully there. And then again it will come, and it becomes more and more. And then from Uttam Madhyam he will come to Kanishta Madhyam. And then he'll be Shuddha Vaishnava, and then he will chant Shuddha Naam most of the time. But then he has to be careful also that he can maintain. So he can become Madhyam Uttam, and then Uttam Uttam, and then he's liberated. So even Madhyam Uttam, he's practically liberated. But the Kanishta Uttam, the Uttamadikari, who was in the beginning level of Uttam, so he may fall down again. If he is inattentive, and then he may deviate. Like Bharad Maharaj, he became attached to a deer. He was Uttam Vaishnava on the first level. And he became attached to a deer and then he deviated. Or if one is performing Hatimat Aparad, mad elephant offense, that he may criticize a Mahabhagavat Vaishnava. So which is rare, because usually the Uttam Vaishnava is careful. But if he does perform aparad, especially Vaishnava aparad, then he will fall down to Madhyam. Or if it is more severe, then he will just fall down to Kanishta. And so many material desires will come again. So that is the situation. So the Shuddha Vaishnava is chanting Shuddha Naam. And the Madhyamadikari on the highest level, sometimes Shuddha Naam will appear, sometimes. Okay? One more question.
जैसे कि निष्ठा रुचि आसक्ति
Nishta, Ruchi, Asakti.
तो वहाँ पे किस अवस्था पे शुद्ध नाम शुरू होगा?
So Nishta, Ruchi and Asakti, where Shuddha Nam is coming. So in Ruchi, when Nam Ruchi is there, so sometimes Shuddha Nam will come. But very rarely. But if one is on the platform of Asakti, then very frequently. So then Shuddha Nam will be there. So it is starting from Ruchi. So which is then Madhyam platform, Ruchi is there, and then he comes to Uttam Madhyam, and then he becomes again there. It's not one day you are Madhyam, and the next day you are Uttam Madhyam. And from one day you are platform of Ruchi, and next day you are Asakti. So gradually it will come. So but usually on Asakti then it will come. So Shuddha Nam is there on Asakti Avastha. In Ruchi Avastha it will come a little bit, sometimes it will be there. Okay? So Nishta, so Abhas Nam is there. But then Ruchi, then sometimes it will be there, Shuddha Nam. And then on Asakti it is more, and more frequently, and then so is Uttam Vaishnav then. But then one has to go further. So we're praying for that. So sometimes the third and fourth type of enmity lead to such an extreme form of asceticism or aversion towards the world that it culminates in self-annihilation. This is seen in the lives of the Mayavadi sannyasis. How should Shuddha Bhaktas behave towards such inimical people? It is their duty to avoid them. So one has to avoid those who are inimical, those who have no faith in the Lord. So those who are blaspheming the Lord and the devotees, so we should avoid them. There's no use of trying to preach to them. They will never accept. So therefore we avoid the atheistic people. The word apeksha, neglect, does not imply that one should abandon all social dealings that are normal between human beings. So just like, for example, now we're in this material world and we have to deal with different people. So we cannot neglect certain people. Now, for example, you have to go to some office and you have some work there. If a people is envious and you can see, you cannot neglect him. You have some things to do with the government. And the official is atheistic, so you cannot neglect, because otherwise your work will not be done. So you have to be practical. And then you have to be kind of, just do it as formality. So even if one is envious, but you have to, in normal dealings, then you have to be tatashta. You're not against him and you're not for him. And you have to be formal. You say Hare Krishna. You may even say, how are you? So you have to be practical in this world. That is the point which is mentioned here. Nor does it mean that one should fail to alleviate an inimical person's difficulty or deprivation if he falls into distress. So if somebody is in difficulty, but even you know he may be an inimical person, but still you should try to help if one is in difficulty. So that is mentioned here. So that is the moral duty which has to be there, or proper behavior for a Vaishnav. Even Yudhishthira Maharaj is a good example. So his cousins were very inimical towards them and Krishna. So but one time they were going somewhere Kauravas, and they were attacked by some celestial beings and they were captured. They were in difficulty. So in one point, because they were so much inimical towards the Pandavas and the Lord, so the Bhima and Arjun and Nakul and Sadev, they were most probably were thinking, great, they are captured, they are in difficulty. That is almost natural. But Yudhishthir, he went there and he told his brothers, we have to help our cousins. And Bhishma and Bhima and Arjun, what are you saying? They put us in so much trouble and we are in exile. They were in exile. They were banished. And so Duryodhana was not even giving them 5 villages to stay, one for each of the Pandavas. He was not ready to give them 5 villages. So envious. And so they were just going here and there, staying here and there. But when they were in difficulty, then Yudhishthir helped them. And he was saying, but still they are our cousins, so we should help them. So that is the situation. So which only those who are really sober, they can do that.
Even if they are sinful personality, still we should help.
Well, if, like, let's say, for example, if a dangerous situation is there, let's say for a sinful person also, but if he's in danger, like for example, there's an accident, and maybe that was a sinful person. But if it's an accident, let's say a road accident, and then you happen to be there, it is your duty to try to help as much as you can, if possible. Of course, in India, you have to be a little careful.
Like suppose there is one drunkard.
Yeah, then, that's, yes. So you have to use your intelligence also.
Yes.
If somebody is a drunkard, you better stay away,
Yeah,
because otherwise you're in trouble.
Or like you said, like he met with an accident and we took him to the hospital. And
Yes.
But again, he will continue with the same sinful activity.
Yeah,
So
that
in
is his
one
problem.
Sense, are we helping him to
No, not
grow?
necessarily. But you can help him and then maybe you can give him some good advice if possible. Maybe he may take or maybe not. But in difficult,
Are we not taking a part in his activities?
no,
Like,
I mean it's
by
just a,
helping him to
no. It is a general principle that we should help others if somebody is in difficulty. And then we may hope that he may then improve. But again, you have to see time, place, circumstances. Like for example in the West, especially like if you're in Switzerland, if anyone has any problem, anyone will help, usually. But in India you have to be a little careful, and many times they will not help because then they are afraid. They may be afraid that they may actually take advantage of our helping
Yes,
us.
But sometimes we are trying to help
And then we are,
and we come in trouble.
right, therefore in India usually it's better to just go ahead and do your job. Yeah. So we have to see time, place, circumstances, but this is just a general principle. So we have to use our discrimination and see time, place, and circumstances. Grihastha Vaishnavas remain within society, so they have many types of relationships. For instance, with relatives through marriage and with others through business dealings, through the maintenance of property and bringing up of animals, through endeavoring to mitigate the suffering and ailments of others, and through their position as citizens of the state. These different social relations entail connection with inimical people, and avoidance does not mean that one should at once give them up. So that is mainly for householders. So in social dealings you have to be careful. And so that is the point here. Like children going to school, and then maybe not all the children's parents are religious, but then sometimes they may be friends. And then, some kind of relationship will be there. So that you have to see, and therefore you cannot just avoid that. But if you are sannyasi, then it's more easy, or a brahmachari, then you avoid those who are inimical. But if you are householders, then sometimes you have to be careful, and you cannot give it up immediately. That is the point. One is obliged to conduct routine affairs and interact with people who are indifferent to Ishvara, but one should not take their association when it comes to spiritual matters. So in normal dealings, we have to entertain them, we have to react, or we have to interact with them, but then privately we have nothing to do with them. We may not go to the house and you have some, well, yeah.
There is no prasad.
If there's no prasad, then we're not going to their houses and take prasad.
Yeah.
And if they're too inimical, we won't invite them to our house to give prasad. So that we have to see. But you have to be polite. That is the point. Some members of one's family, or some members of one's own family may acquire a malicious nature as a result of their sinful activities from previous life. Should one abandon such people? Certainly not. So that is also important, that in one's own family, that we can see, many times it happens, devotees, or we become devotees, and then the family members are not devotees. So, but then in the beginning of our movement, mostly then devotees, they would say, oh, my parents are eating meat, so I don't want to have anything to do with them. I'm practically rejecting them. And then the parents, they become very much disturbed. What happened suddenly? So that is not proper. That is improper. We should still maintain some relationship with the parents, even if they are eating meat. If you have become devotee, because they helped you. And then actually because we should try to become devotees, and then we should try to help others. So what to speak of the parents? So you should maintain a relationship, but you may not be too much in association, but you should call them sometimes, how are you? You may go to them and give them prasad, and then you may explain to them what you're doing, and you may try to help them to change. And if they change, it's good. If not, no problem. But you should be nice with them. And then that will be helpful for their future life, actually. And then they may become positive to some extent. And then they may become nice, and they may become devotees after. But if you're already beginning, these are meat eaters, I don't want to have anything to do with them, then they become more angry towards the devotees and towards the Lord. So therefore we should maintain some relationship. So that is mentioned here also. One should deal with them without attachment insofar as ordinary affairs are concerned, but one should not associate with them for spiritual matters. Upeksha should be applied in this regard. Spiritual association means to meet together for the purpose of spiritual advancement, to discuss topics of eternal truth, and to render reciprocal service and welfare that awakens one's devotional sentiments. Upeksha means avoiding the association of people with whom such types of exchange are not possible. When an inimical person who has adopted discordant or inconsistent opinions hears glorification of Shuddha Bhakti or virtuous instructions regarding Bhakti, he will immediately retort with some futile argument which is not beneficial for you or for him. One should avoid such fruitless arguments and interact with such people only as far as necessary in routine social dealings. So if the parents, they may not be so favorable, so then we should not try to convince them. You may try in the beginning, but if you see that they are not going to be convinced, then you don't try to push them at the more. Yeah. So many times devotees are doing. but then there's no use. But better to just have some formal relationship and try to be nice to them and give them prasadam, but not speak too much about spiritual matters. So that is upeksha. So we try to, in regards to spiritual matters, we are not speaking with them, but at the same time still we have some interaction with them because they are our relatives. But the picture is there to completely neglect. That is only if they are very, very inimical and they're trying to harm us, maybe even, then we may give up them completely. But if not, then we should have some routine social dealings, but not discuss the spiritual subject matter too much. What? Yeah. 5 minutes. One may think that one should include inimical people among the ignorant and therefore bestow mercy upon them. But if one does so, one will not help them and will only harm oneself. So those who are inimical, they should be avoided. Otherwise, there will be difficulty for us also. One will be implicated. One should be benevolent, but with caution. Madhyamadikari bhaktas should certainly follow these 4 instructions. If they neglect to do so in any way, they become guilty of behaving improperly and thus fail to do that for which they are qualified. This is considered a serious defect as explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. Sve sve adhikariya nishta saguna parikirtitaha viparyayas tu dosha syat ubayor eva nishchayaha, from the 11th canto. To be firmly established in the duties one is authorized to perform is a good quality, whereas failure to do so is a fault. Good qualities and fault are ascertained in this way. So we have to use our intelligence in this regard. In other words, good qualities and faults are determined according to one's eligibility and not by any other criterion. According to the Shastras, the Madhyamadikari Bhakta should develop prema for Krishna and friendship with his pure Bhaktas. He should be merciful to the ignorant and should neglect those who are inimical. The degree of friendship that the Madhyam Bhakta establishes with other Bhaktas should be in keeping with the degree of their advancement in Bhakti. The degree of mercy that he bestows upon the ignorant depends on their degree of sincerity or foolishness. And the extent to which he neglects the inimical depends on the degree of their enmity. So friendship, so he can be close or more close, depending on the devotee. So of his advancement or his, like for example, Svajatya Bhakta, those with the same mode, then we should have a closer relationship. But if those devotees are there who don't have a same mood as we have, then we are not too much in friendship with them. Then we are nice, but not too much in friendship. And also being merciful to those who are not yet on the path of devotional service. So if they are sincere, then we help them more. If they are foolish, and then we stop helping them. Or we just give them a little help, that's all. So we have to use our intelligence. And to the extent to which he neglects the inimical depends on the degree of their enmity. So if one is a little bit inimical, then we may still try to help. But if they're very inimical, then we immediately completely avoid these people. So we have to see, we have to use our intelligence. The Madhyam Bhakta considers all these things as he interacts with others in spiritual affairs. Worldly affairs should be conducted in a straightforward manner, but should always be performed with consideration of the ultimate spiritual benefit. So we stop here. Any question? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So tomorrow is Shara Purnima. On this day we take the vow to perform Kartik Vrat. So it means to chant more, to hear more about Krishna, do more parikrama. Can do Brajmandal parikrama, like some devotees have come. Chant more ashtakams or stotrams. So increase one's spiritual activities and decrease the worldly affairs, which we have to do also. We have to take care of ourselves. And so, but we should try to keep that to a minimum and increase our spiritual activities. That is Kartik Vrat, Urja Vrat. So we may advance more. So we may be able to take shelter of Guru Garanga and Radha and Krishna. So that is the purpose of Kartik Vrat. And by doing that, we will get the mercy of Hari Guru Vaishnav. So which is important for our spiritual advancement. Hare Krishna.